Hi everyone, my name's Matt, and just over 5 years ago in February of 2020, I released what would become my most popular build guide of all time for a $500 Newpark gaming PC. From my understanding, a fair number of people ended up building and using that PC through the pandemic, so now that this build is 5 years old, it got me wondering how that system would perform in 2025 and what I would personally do to upgrade it and make it more capable for modern gaming. So in today's video, we're going to be rebuilding that system with the same parts. Then once built, I'm going to test it in a wide variety of games to see what kind of performance it can output in its starting form. Then I'm going to upgrade it with a few key parts to see if, for a few $100, we can make this system capable of playing modern AAA titles. But before we get any further, I want to take a minute to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Daryu, and their new A75HE keyboard. The A75HE combines the rapid response of Hall effect switches with a ton of features you'd find in high-end mechanical keyboards. This includes a full aluminum build with multiple layers of sound dampening, dual-shot PBT keycaps, well-tuned stabilizers, carbon accents, and a volume knob. Plus, these linear sky switches are ultra smooth and this board sounds pretty good too. The included software allows you to fine-tune stuff like actuation point and rapid trigger settings easily, and there's a physical switch to go between different modes for gaming and for regular use. If you haven't tried a keyboard with Hall effect switches, I would highly recommend it as it can be a game changer for you competitive gamers out there. But again, beyond gaming, this is a great mechanical keyboard for general use. If you're interested in the A75HE, make sure to head to the link in the description. Thanks again to Daryu for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the build. So let's start by taking a look at each of the parts in that original system. For the CPU, this PC used an AMD Ryzen 5 1600AF, which for the brief window you could get it was one of the greatest budget CPUs of all time. For $85, you were getting a 6-core 12-thread CPU that was actually closer in performance to an R5 2600 than the original 1600. And you even got a decent stock cooler in the box. Now unfortunately, I ended up having to use a normal 1600 as the 1600AF I have somehow had its pins bent, which I didn't realize until I went to film this video and wasn't able to get a new 1600AF in time to make this video. I also used the Wraith Spire cooler that came with the original 1600 to keep things consistent. This will result in 5 to 10% less performance in CPU limited games, but it won't be the difference maker between a playable and unplayable experience, so just keep that in mind. For the motherboard this 1600 is going to slot into, it's the ASRock B450M Pro 4, which is my favorite motherboard of all time. For around $75 back in 2020, you were getting 4 DIMM slots, 2 M.2 slots, decent VRMs, and solid back panel I/O. In terms of RAM, this PC used a 2x8GB kit of 3000MHz DDR4, which came in at about $55 to $60 in early 2020. I'm using a different kit than the original one in the video, but it's still 16 gigs at 3000MHz, so it should perform exactly the same. For storage, this system used a single 240GB SATA SSD, which I didn't mention the price in the video, but I believe it was around $40. In 2020, budget builds like this were just starting to be able to use SSDs, but this was definitely meant to be a get you up and running drive, and then you could upgrade with another SSD or big hard drive later down the line. With that being said, I just used an M.2 drive for testing as it wouldn't hurt the performance, and I need a lot more space than 240 gigs to test all the games that I need to. For a graphics card, at the time the best GPU that could fit in this budget was the Nvidia GTX 1650 Super. For $160, this was a great card, being able to play pretty much anything at 1080p 60fps, and even came with the NVENC encoder, meaning this $500 PC could actually stream gameplay to sites like Twitch. I used an MSI version in the original build, but for this rebuild I used this Asus TUF One, which performs the same. Now this is the part that will probably have aged the most poorly in this build, as it only has 4GB of video memory, which might be rough now in 2025, where many people assert that even 8GB isn't enough. To power this system, I had gone with this 450W EVGA 450BR. For $40, this was a solid unit with all black sleeve cables and pretty good reliability. and all these parts were wrapped up in the Cooler Master Q300L for $45, which I actually also used in a recent $500 PC build a few months ago. This is a quirky case, but I think it's pretty cool and unique. All in, for $500, this PC provided a lot of value and performance in early 2020, but how does it perform more than 5 years later? Well, let's find out. So I'll start with easy games and work our way up to modern AAA titles. First is Valorant, which actually wasn't out when this PC was built, and at 1080p medium, the system can output a solid 219 FPS average with 1% lows of 111. Next is Fortnite, which has seen a lot of changes in the last 5 years, but is still playable on this PC with a 120 FPS average and 1% lows of 38 in performance mode over the course of a Team Rumbles match, which is kind of a worst case scenario performance-wise. Next is a new esports title, Marvel Rivals, which this PC is capable of handling at 1080p with the low preset outputting an average of 72 FPS with 1% lows of 43, which is good to see modern esports titles are still playable on this PC. Now let's talk about Minecraft. With fast graphics, 12 chunk render, and view distance, along with sodium and BLS shaders, I just ran around in a creative world for a few minutes and saw an average of 71 FPS with 1% lows of 35, which shows that Minecraft, even with shaders, is playable on this PC in 2025. Now let's move on to some AAA titles that released between 2020 and now. In Elden Ring at 1080p low, the system is giving a not great experience with a 57 FPS average and 1% lows of 33, which was decently stuttery and didn't look great. Personally, I would want more performance, so for some people this would be totally playable, but for me, not so much. In Cyberpunk, I tested using the built-in benchmark at 1080p medium and saw a surprising 63 FPS average with 1% lows of 43, which is great to see this can average above 60 FPS in Cyberpunk. Now let's finish off with some very modern and difficult to run games. In Black Myth Wukong, using the built-in benchmark at 1080p low with 100% resolution scale, this PC put out a measly 41 FPS average with 1% lows of 35, which is not great performance in my opinion. Finally, in Monster Hunter Wilds, I tested using the benchmark tool at 1080p lowest, which looks horrendous and performed even worse with a 36 FPS average and 1% lows of 8, so this game is definitely not what I would consider playable. As you can see, this $500 PC from 2020 can still play a ton of games in 2025, even with only 4GB of video memory. With that being said, a lot of the games had to have their settings turned way down or were on the edge of playable. So if I had this PC and were wanting to upgrade it, what parts would I go with? Well, I think the first upgrade anyone with this system probably have already made is storage. Throwing in a 1TB NVMe drive for around $50 is a very good choice, as a 240GB SSD in 2025 probably wouldn't be very usable as the only drive in the system. To try and maximize performance while keeping costs down, I decided to just upgrade the CPU and GPU. For the CPU, I decided to go with the AMD Ryzen 5 5600. You can get this for $80 on AliExpress, and it will be a huge performance boost, and you can sell your old 1600 AF, which you should be able to get at least $25 for, making the net CPU upgrade cost around $55. For the GPU, right now, as I'm sure many of you are aware, the market is crazy. In an ideal world, I'd say to pick up a $240 Arc B580, which even on the PCIe 3.0 motherboard will perform amazingly. With that being said, that's not an option right now, and I think the best thing to do is look at the used market. For about $200, you can get an AMD RX 6600 XT, which will provide a huge improvement in performance, and while it only has 8GB of video memory, I think it's the current best option I could find right now. Plus, you should be able to sell your old 1650 Super for at least $50, making the net upgrade cost of this GPU about $150. So for a total net cost of about $250, you should be able to upgrade your storage, CPU, and GPU, but make sure you are keeping in mind your power supply wattage, as this did limit my options, and this new upgrade combo should only consume about 350 watts, giving us still 100 watts of headroom. Completing this upgrade was pretty simple. The first thing to do, which is very important, is to upgrade your BIOS to a version that supports the 5600. If you don't do this and you're on an old BIOS version, the PC will not boot after installing your new CPU. With that done, the next thing I would recommend doing is taking off the front and back panels, and when laying the case down, put a book or something of similar size under the CPU backplate, which you'll see why in 1 second. Then I started by unscrewing, unplugging, and removing the GPU to give me more room to work. Then I just unscrewed the cooler, removed the old thermal paste on the CPU and the cooler itself, then took out the old 1600 and installed the new 5600. When I went to reinstall the cooler after adding thermal paste, I realized the backplate dropped into the back chamber of the case and had to awkwardly remove the back panel, then hold the backplate in place while I screwed the cooler in, which could have been prevented if I did the book trick that I mentioned earlier. Then I plugged in the new to us 6600 XT and screwed it into place and plugged in the PCIe power cable. Also, it's not a bad idea to run display driver uninstaller before switching out your cards, which I'll link below. Then I could just pop the panels back on, and after installing the updated drivers, I was ready to test the new performance. In Valorant, I saw a good uplift in both the average and 1% lows, making this even smoother. In Fortnite, again, I saw higher average FPS, but only slightly higher 1% lows, which is classic Fortnite. In Marvel Rivals, I was able to crank the settings up from low to high, and even doing so, I still saw a good bit higher average FPS and 1% lows, making this game look and feel much better. In Minecraft, I was able to up the settings from fast to fancy and still saw a nearly doubling in average FPS and 1% lows. Elden Ring, I also increased to 1080p high and saw similar average at 60, but with much better 1% lows at 52, which looked and felt great and would provide a much better experience in Elden Ring compared to the original configuration. Cyberpunk was a similar story in that I turned the preset up to high and saw great numbers with a 100 FPS average and 1% lows of 70. In Black Myth Wukong, I still tested at 1080p low, but was happy to see a 68 FPS average with 1% lows of 58, meaning this upgrade took it from barely playable to what most people would consider acceptable performance. Finally, in Monster Hunter Wilds, I was able to up the settings from the lowest preset to medium, which was a huge change in visuals, and it also went from unplayable to a 67 FPS average with 1% lows of 38, which is pretty good performance in my opinion. All in all, for a net cost of around $250, these upgrades were able to breathe a lot of life into this old budget build, but I'm interested to hear what you guys would have upgraded, or would you have just sold the system and built a new one from scratch? With that being said, I was honestly surprised with how well the system performed in its original state, being a budget build that's over 5 years old now. So that was a fun look back at an old system, and was cool to see how easy and relatively affordable it was to upgrade to bring it up to snuff in 2025. Let me know what you guys think of this build. Do you remember seeing it back in the day, or maybe you even built it? Let me know in the comments below. So yeah guys, I think it's time to wrap this video up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And as always, this is Matt from Tech by Matt, signing out.